Welcome to episode 221 of the Lone Hockey Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about a preview of the Four Nations games going on today. We have Finland, Sweden at 12 p.m. Central, and we have Canada, USA at 7 p.m. Central, which is going to be so exciting. It's so electric to watch. So, some standouts and some players to watch on both sides and in both games. I felt like when you look at the Finns and how they played the other night, I don't feel like it's a direct representation of how they play on a regular basis. I just feel like it's a one-off game. The problem is when even if you have a one-off game in this tournament, in this style of tournament, it can hurt you really bad. So everybody needs to be locked in. The Finns are going to have to be locked in for this game because it's going to be a competitive group and it's going to be a competitive effort the rest of the round robin. So when you look at the Finns, obviously they have a good lineup, but it's just more a matter of are their top players going to be able to produce and are they going to be able to get enough production throughout the rest of the lineup? So that's my biggest question when it comes to them. Even when you look at Sweden the other night, and Sweden's obviously got an intriguing roster. You got Philip Forsberg, you got William Nylander, one of the best scorers in the NHL. You have Mika Zibanejad, you have so many other players. And then at the same time, it's like, okay, can these guys produce offensively and can they be relied upon offensively? I feel like that's the biggest question in that regard. But when you look at how Sweden plays, they play a possession-oriented game and they like to rely a lot upon their offense because they have a lot of offensive weapons, obviously, for good reason. And the thing is, when it comes to their game, when their top players are not going, it can be a very big problem. And same with Finland, because Finland doesn't even have as much depth compared to Sweden. Sweden has a lot more depth up front, on the back end, and in net. So when you look at how the Finns, if they don't get the production from Rantanen, Aho, Lehkonen and Barkov and these guys, they're probably going to lose the tournament. That's just the reality of it because they need those guys rolling and they need their whole lineup going all the time. So the tricky thing when it comes to Finland is are they going to be able to sustain a full 60-minute effort and are they able to bounce back after that massive loss against the US, that 6-1 loss in which the Kachuk brothers essentially dominated them. So that's going to be an interesting preview. And with Sweden, I expect guys like William Nylander, Mika Zibanejad, Philip Forsberg, and a lot of their other forward group and elite forwards to be better. I felt like I didn't notice them that much the other game, and they were just kind of okay, but they weren't necessarily popping off like they usually do. So when it comes to those guys, you're going to want to rely upon them as top end offensive players. That's why they're in this tournament. So with Sweden, though, I felt like their decor is really noticeable. That was a really big positive from their game against Canada the other night. And you look at how Victor Hedman was able to play a massive shutdown role. Even Gus Forsling, I thought Forsling was really noticeable defensively. But Victor Hedman was just the guy defending all the top situations. He was defending all the key zones. He was defending all the key players. He's defending everything, and he had to play and be relied upon to play a massive role defensively for this team because, yes, they have depth on defense, but when you look at Victor Hedman, obviously a big body, 6'6", can defend, can play offense, can transition the puck, can maintain poise. He's got an active stick. He's got really good stick awareness, stick detail, positioning. That's the guy you want against those top players because of his size advantage for sure. He's got a longer reach, longer radius in terms of his reach, so that certainly helps. And then the other game, Canada US, this is going to be an interesting one because US coming off a massive win against Finland the other night, so they're going to be feeling good. Canada, they had so many guys rolling. They had was rolling. Sidney Crosby still looks like the best player in the world. And even as a result in this tournament, he's the oldest guy on Canada on the roster, yet he looks like the youngest, ironically. And you have Nathan McKinnon, you have Connor McDavid, you have so many guys who come at you in waves. And obviously, the speed's going to be a factor for Canada tonight. That's no question. But for the US, I'd be really, really curious to see if the Kachuk brothers are going to be playing against guys like McDavid, McKinnon a lot because I feel like in terms of the Kachucks, that's the line, and especially if you pair them together at 5-on-5, that's the line you'd want to go against those top end guys because they can annoy them. Could Matthew Kachuk has played extensively in that Battle of Alberta rivalry against McDavid for so many years with Calgary. And I feel like if you really want to shut those guys down, and you're not going to shut them down to full impact, like they're still going to generate to some degree. That's what the top players do. But I feel like having Matthew Tkachuk on a line with Brady and playing him against guys like McDavid, McCarr, Crosby, they'll just annoy the heck out of him all night long. And I feel like that's the line you want going. That's the line you want to have. So I'd be curious to see, from one, if Mike Sullivan sticks with the Kachuk brothers at 5-on-5 with how they played together the other night. And two, if they get those big matchups, those premier matchups, because the US has a lot of depth and they can rely upon a lot of their forwards to play a really good checking role. But I just feel like the Kachucks are the perfect defensive players to have going against those top guys. And then as for Canada, we talked about their speed, their hockey sense, their playmaking, their vision, just how they're able to make plays on an elite basis. When you look at guys like Sidney Crosby and how he's playing, played a really good game the other night with 3 assists. Cale Makar was excellent. Nathan McKinnon was just going through guys, powering through guys all game long. Connor McDavid looked okay. I would say the best of the bunch was between Crosby and McKinnon. I felt like McDavid, for his standard, he was okay. He stood out. He made some nice plays, but he wasn't necessarily the standout player that we usually see when it comes to him. So with McDavid, he'll be an interesting player to follow throughout this game for sure, and it'll be interesting to follow this Canada USA game tonight as well.